Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of True Believers, the MCU podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We got a lot of things going on. And of course, right now we are in the heart of Daredevil Born Again. And we got an interesting episode tonight because not only do we have one episode, but two episodes of Daredevil Born Again dropped this week. And we got a lot to talk about with it. So without further ado, here on True Believers, I'm going to bring in my top-notch attorney law firm because, of course, it is Wagner, Reitzel, and Cat. And let me bring in the man who is the Foggy Nelson to my Matt Murdock, the one and only Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
What's going on? Yeah, I didn't get to hang out with you guys last week. So in tribute, I'm wearing my Punisher shirt today. Or am I a Punisher wannabe on the streets?
It might not end very well for you if Frank catches you. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah.
But two, we need a heavy, and we need somebody to kind of get the witnesses to talk like they're supposed to talk. There is only one person I can think of. He is Catpool himself, Mr. Cat Cedar.
What's going on, everybody? Need a heavy for something you said? Who am I hitting? Who am I talking to?
I'm still working on that, but I have a few people in mind. We'll get back to that.
Let me know.
But guys, we are talking Daredevil Born Again here on this episode of True Believers. And two episodes, guys. We knew this in the schedule, but we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the episode because this was a little strange for a 2-episode drop, but you are listening to the Fandom Podcast Network, and we've got a lot of things going on there, so check us out. In fact, scan the QR code that's up on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. It'll take you
Hold on. I want to check this out. Let me go. All right. Oh, it works. Nice. All right.
It takes you to our audio podcast homepage where you can find all the great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. And just so everybody knows, this is a spoiler reaction show. We are going to be talking about both of these episodes in depth. So, guys, that's right. Spoilers ahead, according to Tony and Cap. So, you've been warned. That's all I'm saying. Daredevil continues to march on. We are over halfway through now of the first season, and we're getting ready to hit the apex. I think we have 3 episodes left after these 2 that dropped this week, guys.
I have a quick question for you guys. Did they film all 18 episodes at once, and then they're just going to air the first 9 this time and then the next 9 next time?
No, they're actually filming right now the second half, the second season. They're the second half, which is due out to come out in 2026.
Gotcha. So, cool. All right.
We've got those, but also check out our previous episodes of True Believers covering all the episodes of Daredevil Born Again. We've had a lot of fun talking about this, and we're going to continue to do so here with the latest 2 episodes, episode 5, With Interest, and episode 6, Excessive Force. Again, one last warning, spoilers ahead. But first, guys, we've got a little MCU news to talk about. It's time for Snit, Thwip, and Kapow. Let's get to some MCU news. So Marvel had a busy day the other day as they put out a 5-hour stream with a lot of director's chairs. That was a really big room, I'm thinking. They announced what turns out it is not the whole cast of Avengers Doomsday, but it is sure a whole lot of people in Avengers Doomsday. Before I even start going into the list real quick, I want to get your guys' opinion of how they executed this, because a lot of people have been talking about it. Some people really hated it. Some people really liked it. I think it's actually kind of a little bit of marketing genius. You've got people watching you and talking for 5 hours, but yeah, it was a bit of an exercise, Kevin.
We don't have 5 hours. This was happening while I was at work, and one of my buddies who's an MCU nerd like we are saying, "Are you watching the live stream? They're talking about the cast of Doomsday," and so like I turn it on, and it's like on one name for like, I don't know, it felt like an hour.
I think it was 15 minutes per name,
and I'm just like, I don't have time for this, so I just waited till the wrap up because, I'm not a fan of the way they did it, but I'm glad they did it. So,
Kat, we talked a little bit about this off mic before the episode. You were not a fan.
Yeah, not a fan of the way they did it either. I'm glad they did it, but 5 hours, man. Come on, guys. You could have done this whole thing in an hour easily. And yeah. I literally had it in the background playing, listening to it while I was doing it. And I turned it off after about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I can't listen anymore. I need something else to listen to that is kind of keep me awake while I'm doing what I'm doing. But after reading the cast list, man.
Well, let's get into that. We're not going to be here for 5 hours reading this book. Here's the list. Chris Hemsworth returning as Thor, Vanessa Kirby, of course, the Invisible Woman, Anthony Mackie as Captain America, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, Letitia Wright returning as her version of the Black Panther, Paul Rudd is coming back as Ant-Man, Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent, Tenoch Huerta Mija as Namor. That one kind of.
I was trying to remember who the hell that was.
Yeah, he was Namor in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I'm actually a little surprised by that one, but he's had some things, but we'll skip that for now. Eben Moss Bacharach as Ben Grimm, Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, which I'm very happy to see him back. Florence Pugh returning as Yelena. Kelsey Grammer. This is where some of the surprises start coming in.
The Beast.
We saw him. Yeah. Kevin?
Oh, as the Beast. Right. Yeah.
We saw him at the end of the Marvels. So
that's right. Yeah. Okay.
So which tells me we're going to see Monica Rambeau back as well. Louis Pullman, who plays Bob, who's rumored to be the Sentry from Thunderbolts. Danny Ramirez returning as the Falcon. Joseph Quinn returning as Johnny Storm. David Harbour back as the Red Guardian. Winston Duke as M'Baku back from Black Panther.
I like that guy.
Yeah, he's great. Hannah John Kamen as the Ghost. Tom Hiddleston. This is one of the big surprises. A lot of people didn't think we'd see Loki, but he is returning to the MCU to play Loki. Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Last time we saw him in that role was, of course, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Another shocker, Ian McKellen as Magneto. Alan Cumming as Kurt Wagner. Rebecca Romaine returning to play Mystique. Channing Tatum.
That one surprised me.
Yeah. Channing Tatum. I was a little surprised by this. Returning, playing Gambit. Of course, Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. And last but certainly not least, Robert Downey Jr.
Did you skip over James Marsden? I can't remember if you said his name.
Yeah, James Marsden is in there as returning as Cyclops. The big thing is even after all of this, Marvel said there will be another announcement announcing more cast soon. But guys, this is a huge list. This movie was planning to be huge anyway. I'm a little bit shocked to see all the Fox X-Men characters that are going to be in this film.
Well,
they had to bring them into the Marvel universe some way. That's the way to do it.
How are they going to do it? Are we going to? Do you think that the end of Fantastic Four, they're going to come into the MCU current timeline, and then something's going to bring the rest of the people in, or what? I mean, I feel like kind of in a way we're going to have like a Daredevil appearance. I'm sorry, Deadpool appearance. Yeah, I mean, since he's talked to some of these people, so yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I really do think now that seeing this cast list and seeing some of the direction going, I think Fantastic Four is going to be a huge setup for Avengers Doomsday, and so I think that's going to make it even more.
Well, let's have the quick conversation. Who's missing from this? Who are we gonna be spoiled about? There was rumors that Chris Evans would be back, right?
I think Chris Evans. We're going to see Chris Evans announced. I wouldn't be surprised to see Scarlett Johansson announced in one fashion or another.
Hugh Jackman.
I think you could see alternate versions of.
I mean, you can't have you can't have the Fox X-Men in without him, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you're missing Halle Berry, but she could be there.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people were calling her name in the chat. I also think too that we could see, of course, Mark Ruffalo's name hasn't come up yet. Tatiana Maslany, the Daredevil people, and everybody from that universe. Maybe some more of the Disney Plus people. Kamala Khan. The actually plays Kamala Khan. Some of those characters. I mean, there's still a lot on the board, so it'll be interesting to see. Tom Holland's name hasn't come up yet.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see what they're doing. This is a lot of people. This is going to be an ambitious project for the MCU. That is for sure.
I have a feeling it's going to outdo Avengers Endgame in money
it would not surprise me. But guys, we are here to talk Daredevil, and that means it's time to get into some phases. Kevin, you were gone last week. Kat kind of gave us a supplementary power source, but is the Tesseract ready over there?
It's hanging out here, but I would like to take the opportunity. I'd like to get back to mentioning the phases ahead of time so people know what's coming, if you don't mind. So yeah, give me a little.
I can do that. Let's see what I got here.
There we go. There we go. So phase one, we're going to have the plot description, reactions, cast comments, and we're actually going to read the plot description for both first episode or episode 5, and then we'll briefly mention something and then go to episode 6. Then we're going to go into phase 2, which is the trivia and Easter eggs and cameos. Plot 3, we'll get into plot analysis. Phase 3, excuse me. Plot analysis, ties to the MCU. And phase 4, of course, will be our final thoughts and maybe predictions for the next episode.
Sounds good. With that, Kevin, can you go into the great big book of True Believers and give us the plot synopsis for episode 5 with interest?
You got it. Okay, with interest, episode 5. On St. Patrick's Day, Murdock goes to New York Mutual regarding a loan for his law firm, which is rebuked by the assistant manager, bank manager, Yusuf Khan. Shortly after he leaves, the bank is attacked by a group of Irish bank robbers led by a man named Devlin. As Devlin talks with the hostage negotiator, Detective Angie Kim, Murdock returns to the bank. He knocks out some of the robbers and helps Khan stall for time opening the vault, where they discover a rare diamond the robbers were after. As the police burst in, Murdock finds out that the ringleader was disguised as one of the hostages the entire time. While Devlin escapes, dressed as a cop, Murdock dons one of the robbers' masks and tracks down Devlin to retrieve the diamond, which returns to Khan. I think he puts it in the candy dish, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Okay, guys, let's talk about this episode for just a few minutes, because this really did feel kind of an almost like an out of place episode, like it was kind of carried over from maybe some of the original script ideas. But I think for me, this episode did feel kind of like, okay, this is the palate cleanser before we get into the heaviness of the next few episodes of the season as we close out. There were some things I really liked about this episode. I actually thought it was a very fun episode. I liked the cameo we had in it, and I liked the fact it did advance Matt forward into becoming more Daredevil and donning the suit again, because I think that was a big part of his story. But it was a fun episode, but it just kind of felt like, okay, this is kind of our intermission episode. I don't know how you guys felt about it. Kevin?
I see what you mean. Yeah, intermission episode. So I feel like it's setting stuff up, because we have the main bank heister guy who we'd seen before. I think he was the one that killed the guys in the truck, if I remember correctly. And the thing about this diamond, I'm not sure. It's kind of a MacGuffin, but obviously it has to pay off later to kind of make this whole episode mean something. It was nice to get to Kamala Khan's father in this. It was great. I like the chemistry between those two, but that has to pay off. Otherwise, it was kind of like a, let's this is our Daredevil version of the bank heist that we saw in the beginning of Batman: The Dark Knight. Let's have this going, but it didn't really move the story forward much. You could call it kind of a setup episode, palate cleanser till we get into the next episode. But that was my thoughts on it.
Kat, what about you?
Definitely, this is just a filler episode. I don't think it was meant to be where it was. I think they we need 9 episodes, so let's throw in this episode just to sort of move things along a little bit. Again, I like Kevin. I like the interaction between him and Kamala Khan's dad. That was funny. I loved how...
Can we give it up for the little custom Funko Pop of Kamala Khan? That was kind of funny.
I loved how he showed it to Daredevil. He's like, I'm blind, dude. I can't see.
Yeah, there you go.
He kept forgetting he was blind while he was trying to... I can show you... Oh, you're blind. Oh, I can... You're blind. Although, two of the best things about this episode that I really enjoyed was one, when Daredevil is opening the safe and he walks in and her dad goes, "What kind of lawyer are you?" He goes, "A real good one." Yeah. Which was a nice shout out to Spider-Man Far From Home or No Way Home, whichever one was the second one, I think.
We'll get to that, actually.
Oh, well then. Other than that, and the fight scene at the end was really good for this episode.
Yeah, it's given everybody a great new meme about knee breaking.
Oh God, that made me cringe when he did that. I'm like, ooh, he's never walking again.
But guys, we did have 2 episodes drop this week, and episode 6, Excessive Force. This is where I felt like we were going to pick up after last week's episode. But Kevin, get back into that MCU book of all things and can give us a plot synopsis for Excessive Force.
All right. The Muse draws public attention after being found to use his victim's blood in his street art. A recent mural decrying the city's law enforcement provokes Fisk to establish an anti-vigilante task force, the AVTF, with unlimited jurisdiction to apprehend him, comprised of more notorious police officers such as Powell and former detective Cole North. Angela separately attempts to court Murdock about the killings, believing Isla was investigating them prior to his death. Elsewhere, Fisk attends a private party to discuss the Red Hook urbanization project with the city's elite, where socialite Jack Duquesne, is it saying that right, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Disillusioned by Murdock's disregard for the situation, Angela attempts to track Muse to his hideout, but is abducted. Murdock suits up as Daredevil, infiltrates the lair, incapacitates Muse, and rescues her. Fisk visits Adam to give him an axe, challenging him to a fight in which Fisk beats him and drags him back to the cell.
Yeah. Oh, this episode was insanely powerful, guys. This is what we've been waiting for. I mean, from Matt saying, and I'll excuse my language here, fuck it. He's doing it himself. He's going out as Daredevil. We'll see Wilson Fisk basically say the same thing and start doing his political side, much like he does his Kingpin side. This really is the turning point of this season and this episode, which we have 3 episodes left, as I said. But what a powerful episode, and how great it was to see Matt suit up again, Kevin.
Yeah, definitely. This was interesting too, because we're both finding the Kingpin and Daredevil sliding back into what they're used to doing. They made a promise to themselves to not do, but when it comes to, and you could just see the tension of, like, I'm forgetting the guy's name that was waiting for Wilson in his mayor's office. They're talking about the 1.8 million, and you can just see, like, Wilson planning his future death. And I love those scenes there. I do have a question. I don't know if I'm going to bring it up right now, and if we're going to go into that a little bit later. So Wilson puts together an anti-vigilante task force. Last I checked, at least for now, the Muse, which is what this is triggering, is not a vigilante. All right, he's a straight up serial killer. So I don't know if he's just doing this as to also track down the Punisher and track down Daredevil, or someone that's using swords. I don't see that he's doing this to do that instead of track down the serial killer, I think, because the serial killer Muse is not a vigilante.
However, he is masked, and he talked about getting rid of masked vigilantes and masked people. And I think he's able to and he talked about using the situation. I think he's able to use Muse as his leverage to make this task force. So the public eye sees them as hunting Muse, but then they can get away with doing things with going after other vigilantes like a Daredevil or Punisher, or the guy who wears the spider suit.
So that begs the question then, also, the people that are pretending to be, being Punisher wannabes, the one that killed, White Tiger, is he a separate little hidden secret force that Fisk is organizing? And he's doing both, playing each other against it. I don't know. This is what I love about the show. It's bringing up these questions in my brain.
I think there's a lot of those Punisher fanboys who are probably on Fisk's task force. I think there's a similar mindset to there. But Kat, what were your thoughts on this episode? You're muted,
Kat.
I forgot I muted myself. I thought this was a great episode. It was like what we were talking about last week, where we said it was going to be, story build up, action, story setup. Instead, it was story setup and action at the end. Great episode. I loved the interaction between Ayala and Murdock in the court, in the office, talking, and her sort of giving him that push to, like, hey, become Daredevil again, find my sister, or find this bad guy, and then in the end case, find my sister when she was abducted. And then Kingpin sort of talking to, like Kevin said, to the guy in his office, the criminal there. And there's like, you can see him going, I'm going to kill you in 1 week and 1 day if you don't give me that $2.8 million. So I was like, and then of course Muse just being creepy was awesome.
One other little side thing, it was interesting to see the couplings in this episode, because you see where there's Matt with his current love interest, and now she's writing a book about vigilantes, which Matt's kind of got to feel a little uncomfortable with. But it's kind of seems like it might be starting to drive a little bit of wedge or situation between them. But you have the Kingpin and Vanessa getting closer because Wilson is going back to his old persona while Matt is separating from somebody because he is getting back to being Daredevil too. Just a little thing I noticed as I was watching the episode that kind of stood out to me. I'm going to be interested to see how that development continues.
Yeah, I also actually name dropped. Don't you know Daredevil? Don't you know the Punisher? It's like, no. Yes, no. What do I say here?
Exactly. But guys, I got some trivia and Easter eggs. Kevin, are we good on Tesseract power?
Yes. Let's go ahead and go into that, man.
Little phase 2. Apparently the Tesseract did have a little bit of a hiccup there, but that's good. Not much in trivia this week, but we have a lot of fun Easter eggs to talk about in this week's episode, guys. So let's get into it. And of course, we talked about this a little bit in the episode. This was one of the biggest surprises for me. I was not expecting to see this particular person in an episode of Daredevil Born Again, but needing a loan for Murdock and McDuffie's expansion, Matt Murdock meets with none other than Yusuf Khan at a New York bank, the assistant manager, and he is also the father of Kamala Khan. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, so don't worry, guys. We're coming back to this. Kat, you brought this up a little bit earlier. A great throwback to Spider-Man No Way Home. After cranking the bank vault with his heightened senses, Yusuf asks Matt what kind of lawyer he is. Matt responds, he's a really good lawyer, a callback to a similar response in No Way Home when he caught a brick thrown through the window.
I did not remember that one bit, so good call, Kat.
I was like, that was great throwback. I thought sort of another little Spider-Man, coming in, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, in the category of file this Easter egg away, guys, a future dinner with the Khans, Matt will eventually meet Kamala. Inviting Matt to dinner with his family, the promise of meeting the famous Kamala is made, creating the opportunity for Daredevil and Miss Marvel to possibly be familiar with each other when and if they are both in the next Avengers films. I'm just saying, file it away. I don't think they did that without a purpose.
I would love to see Kamala Khan make an appearance in this, and I'm looking forward to seeing her in the bigger movies, but I would love to see her do this. I'm just a big fan of the character of Kamala. I love that she was a fangirl first before she got her powers, and that makes it really fun and interesting, so I think that would be great.
Well, remember what I said last week about Kamala Khan, and at the end of the episode 9 or maybe episode 18 now that I think about it, where she might show up at the end credit kind of thing in Daredevil, becoming a mentor for the street heroes, where she's searching for Kate Bishop and searching for other people, Spider-Man maybe, to make the Young Avengers.
Yeah. An interesting possibility, but it's funny you mentioned looking for Kate Bishop, because we got a Hawkeye reference in episode 6, because episode 6 opens with New Yorkers sharing their support for vigilantes, including Jack Duquesne, aka the Swordsman, her first debuted in 2021 in Marvel's Hawkeye. Mr. Reitzel.
I got a question. I didn't think it was him. I actually thought it was Elektra, or what's her name that had
Elodie Young.
Yeah. I thought it was that. How do we know that it's Jack made an appearance in the social scenes, but I thought it would be her. Is there any word that character is coming back? Because you can't really tell if it's a man or a woman.
There's been no word, but they did drop the use of the fact he was using a sword, and
she knows how to use swords too, right?
Who?
Yeah, but her main weapons are the sai.
Yeah, so, I know, but she had used swords though in the Daredevil TV series. So
I think the bow was wrapped up on that with this, because
Yeah, they showed
during
a picture
Mayor
of him.
Fisk's fundraiser, Tony Dalton's Jack Duquesne makes an even bigger appearance in the episode, warning Fisk about the power of the New York elite, while also sharing his distaste for the former Kingpin, seeing how his old girlfriend once had no choice but to work for him. Of course, that was being Kate Bishop's mom in Hawkeye. So, Mr. Reitzel?
I got more questions. Can you please remind me and the others that don't remember who the swordsman is in the Marvel Universe?
We're going to talk about that later.
Okay. All right, cool.
So we have that for a later discussion, Mr. Reitzel. We will get to that, though.
Yay.
So next up, guys, Are You Really Muse? Mirroring the comics. There was a scene in this episode where two young women come across Muse, and it does not end well for him. The scene with two women approaching Muse and asking for selfie is a direct nod to the original comics, mirroring one of the first time Muse appears on the page. That said, the comics Muse does indeed take a selfie with the two women, though they still end up becoming his latest victims. So, pulling it right from the page there, guys.
That's pretty cool. I love that mural of the Punisher right there. That's pretty cool.
And speaking of pulling from the page, we got a new character that is a direct character from the pages. Detective Cole North, who is a key character from the comics in more recent years. Detective Cole North is handpicked by Mayor Fisk for his new initiative. A new MCU character from the comics who was similarly tasked with tracking down the likes of Daredevil and Spider-Man on Mayor Fisk's orders. However, North has since received a more redemptive arc, one where he's actually become an ally to Matt Murdock in the pages of the comics. So,
is he only been referenced in the comics? Have we seen him in the previous Daredevil series?
No, this is his first appearance in the MCU.
Okay, cool. So he was bad guy gone good in the comics?
He was working for Fisk and kind of got a little bit of a redemptive arc. Now he's kind of associating and helping out Matt Murdock with some cases and things.
Okay, cool.
He's not really a bad guy, but not a good guy, but then becomes a better guy.
Yeah, shades of gray there.
75.
And finally, Kevin, you mentioned it a little earlier too. Mayor Fisk's anti-task force mirroring the original Marvel comics. Fisk's anti-vigilante task force was similarly created during his administration in the comics. And Fisk's final days as New York mayor during the Devil's Reign event saw him going even further, enlisting his own team of Thunderbolts. There's that name again, made up of supervillains to arrest the likes of Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and more. So a lot of Easter eggs and ties to the comics this week.
What we're getting, though, from this episode is that these are like corrupt cops that are going to have a license to kill, so to speak. You know, that's kind of what I'm getting from this. Yeah.
As soon as he said no body cams, that was
that
was your trigger. Well, guys, that wraps up the Easter eggs for this episode. Let's get into some of our main plot topics. So let's shift into phase 3. Okay, guys, once again, we are talking about Daredevil Born Again, episode 5 with interest, and episode 6, Excessive Force. And guys, the first topic I want to get into is something we've been kind of covering every week in the topics, but it is the dueling arc of Wilson Fisk and Daredevil. This week's 2-episode drop saw Matt embrace his superhero side once again, with episode 5 having him do everything but put on the costume, to episode 6, where again, it's part of my language, saying, fuck it. And Matt, once again, shooting up to go find Angela and ends up confronting Muse. While for Fisk, the political games continue to wear on him as we see him start to embrace his Kingpin side once again, from his confrontation with Luca in his office to his fight with Adam to the formation of his off-the-books task force. Guys, these paths, these two characters are so intertwined, whether it's the comics, whether it's this show. But there's one more little thing I want to add before I get to your guys' thoughts. I want to add to the fact that both are being drawn back into their past selves by a serial killer named Muse, and this show is living up to its Born Again title. Muse being the inspiration that ends up really kind of pushing them over the edge for Matt to don the suit, for Kingpin to start getting more aggressive with this task force and everything like that. They're having a little fun here, guys, with this, but this has been one of the greatest stories I think the MCU has told in a long time, Kevin.
Okay, so I know the Muse is affecting both Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk Kingpin. I think it's affecting more Kingpin right now. But to me, I don't think it's necessarily the Muse. I think it's like the other mobsters trying to take over control that Wilson Fisk had, and being kind of dicks about it, and killing people at the dockyards and stuff like that. And you could tell he's just not quite comfortable in his mayor seat, so to speak. And he doesn't like losing the control that he had on the underground. And he doesn't like to answer to anybody. And obviously, vigilantes are putting a hamper on both his I guess you could say his legit job and his not legit job. And so he's using the task force to he's not using the task force to track down the Muse. Hell, if they happen to, fine. He's using the task force to track down Daredevil and the Punisher and whoever, the swordsman and all that. But what it is, it's eating him alive inside. You could just see him totally deteriorating back to the old,
Wilson Fisk, Kingpin.
Yeah, Kingpin thing. And you see the same with Murdock as well, because he's still haunted by Foggy's death, and now, White Tiger's niece comes pleading for help, and there's like really nothing he can do. And then, she's going to fine. I'm going to go out there and find him myself, use my flashlight down there and then totally be seen. And then he comes to help rescue her. Of course, unfortunately, the Muse escapes. So it's interesting though, but I almost feel like if you were to ask me, hey, which one is falling back harder, even though, into their old ways, you could make the argument that the Daredevil does because he puts the suit on. But come on, Kingpin's just like, I'm going to get my task force. I'm going to go beat the crap out of this guy and I'm going to plan this guy's mobster's death. You could say he's going down faster. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, before I get to you, Kat, there was one little interesting moment too in that episode when he's putting on his jacket and the jacket rips.
Yeah.
Yeah, the white jacket is coming right around the corner. It's just a matter of time. But Kat, what about you? We're continuing this story of two sides of the same coin, both being born again into their old ways. They really advanced it this week. What are you thinking with this storyline so far?
So unlike Kevin, I agree that Wilson Fisk he actually did create the task force to hunt down Muse, because Muse is also upsetting his reputation. So he's mainly using it for Muse, as well as Daredevil and everyone else in costumes. His digression back to Kingpin is totally visible. I mean, you can see it when he's talking to the guy in the office and then not being able to retaliate and do anything physically to that guy because, again, he's Wilson Fisk, the mayor. Then he goes to see Adam and then beat the shit out of him because he's really the Kingpin and he's getting out his aggression by beating the shit out of Adam. On the same coin as, born again, Daredevil in the office talking to the daughter and then realizing that he can do something, and her, like I said earlier, giving him that push to go do it. And then her disappearing makes him do it. So he's dropping back to his Daredevil persona, and Wilson is dropping back to his Kingpin's persona. I will agree with Kevin on the fact that it is dropping faster. And like we said last week, I think by the end of the season, episode 9, I'm guessing, maybe 8, we'll see Wilson putting on the white suit again and saying, basically, as you said, pardon my French, fuck it, I'm going to be the Kingpin as the mayor, and then go from there.
Kevin?
So to jump to the DC side of things real quick, one of my favorite TV shows last year was The Penguin. And we saw how well, what's his name, played the Penguin?
Colin Farrell?
Yeah, Colin Farrell. Ended up winning, I think he got the Golden Globe, or was it the Emmy? He won one of those.
Got the Golden Globe. I think it was the Golden Globe.
Vincent D'Onofrio, can we just go ahead and get him nominated next year during award season? How amazing is he as his character? Don't get me wrong, I love Charlie as the Daredevil, but there's something about the way when you see people talking to Wilson Fisk, and you could tell that, because the mobster mentality that you read, you see in movies where you don't always say what you think, and you have to be careful to bite your tongue, so others around you don't really know what you want to do, but you're planning 4 steps ahead to either kill this guy or to maneuver around them or do something. I see that in Vince's face when he's talking to everyone, and there's just a certain way he does this, and you see it a lot in this particular episode. That's why I'm bringing it up. Vincent D'Onofrio is probably one of the best acting characters I've seen in all of the MCU, outside of certain moments with, Chris as Captain America or, Iron Man, certain scenes he's done as well. He's just damn effing good. I'm going to say it, damn fucking good.
Yep. Absolutely.
Language.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well said, Cat.
Right into the dollar jar.
Did he just say language?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. Well, I want to move on to topic 2 because I broke this up into 2 parts here. The first part I want to hit, the topic itself was 2 for the price of 1 and seeing some familiar faces. We saw 2 episodes of Born Again drop, with episode 5 feeling more of like a one-off, but even though it did progress Matt towards being Daredevil again, while episode 6 felt more like the continuation of where we ended in episode 4, where we finally saw Matt don the suit again. The question is, with these 2 how these 2 episodes went, were we worth the 2 episode drop at this point in time? Because this is we have 9 episodes. This shortens things up a little. We already had a 2 episode drop at the beginning. I know Disney's also tries to work it to where they fit schedules in where certain shows don't air at the same time, other shows are. But Kevin, what did you think? Was this worth a 2 episode drop with these episodes?
I believe it was done on purpose. That's the reason why we've gotten the 2 episode drops on a lot of these shows that come out, because the first episode usually sets up the second episode. And if you just watch the first episode and have to wait a week, I think there's some momentum in the storytelling that you lose. And that I realized they figured okay, this bank heist thing is probably the weakest plot point. People will call it filler, but I think there's parts of it that'll pop up later, but it's not like it's not an anchor episode. So that's why they wanted to get you kind of set up and ready for the next episode, because even though they weren't really connected, so to speak, they figure we really have to end this week off with the Muse doing his thing and the task force and stuff like that. So I felt like that they kind of just give you this kind of fluffy episode and then boom, we're going to get you right into it. But they didn't want to not omit that last episode, because I have a feeling the stuff that happened that will pop up later.
Kat, what about you? Do you think it was worth the 2 episode drop?
Yes and no. I know for the time constraints of the season and the series, and like you said, other episodes that don't want to overlap shows and whatnot. I think depending on next week's episode, it could have been 6 and 7. 5. I'm sorry. 6 and 7 instead of 5 and 6. 5, like we said, is like a fluffy filler episode, which will pay off somewhere, we assume, down the line. Again, especially that whole Kamala Miss Marvel thing that I mentioned a couple times. But was this necessary? I wouldn't say yes. Was it good? I would definitely say yes. So,
No, I get it. I did thoroughly enjoy both episodes. Don't get me.
Absolutely.
I thought episode 5 was a lot of fun. It was good to kind of just have some traditional superhero kind of stuff going on a little bit there and having that aspect. But episode 6 was just so powerful and so good in continuing the story. But there's a second part to this topic, and that's seeing some familiar faces and surprising familiar faces, but glad to see them. Episode 5 saw us see Yusuf Khan and several mentions of Kamala, including her being out in California. And considering the last time we saw Kamala, she was trying to recruit Kate Bishop into the Young Avengers, and mentioned Scott Lang has a daughter in San Francisco. Of course, Cassie Lang being a big part of the Young Avengers in the comics. So it was nice to have that little drop there. And Kevin, I'm going to kind of say it. Yusuf Khan is becoming kind of one of those show up everywhere in a Marvel film, and he's fun. And we've talked about this before with other franchises. There's always that one character who's kind of he just pops up out of nowhere when you don't expect it, but it's going to be a fun episode because he's in it.
I'm going to comment on that. And then I got a question regarding the California visit for Kamala. Regarding Yusuf, what I love about Miss Marvel is her parents were great. They were entertaining. They were funny. and they did a great job casting those guys, including her brother. I kind of almost feel like one of the things. Remember the first Transformers movie that came out and how funny the parents were? Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how they stole a lot of the scenes. I kind of feel that's the kind of comparison I want to make with Yusef and his wife. That in the Transformers film, the parents were kind of more entertaining than a lot of the rest of the cast, to be honest with you. And that's what I love about Yusuf. I think he's a great actor too, and I love how proud he is of his daughter. Regarding the California thing, I was having this discussion with my coworker, who I'll give him a shout out, Blair. He's listening or watching, about the strength of the Young Avengers. We think there might be a Young Avengers film, or the Young Avengers will be in one of the main Avengers films. And he was saying, like, I don't know if a Young Avengers, and if they wait too long, they're going to be too old, can power a movie, maybe a TV series. They might be better if they drop in on the big movies and team up and do little things like that. I don't know what you guys think of that, but I was going like, yeah, I don't know if a Younger Avengers film would fly right now.
So my thoughts on Young Avengers is that they're building for them to make an appearance in one of the two big Avengers films.
Yeah.
I think then depending on the reaction to that will determine whether we get, I think it'll be a Disney Plus series. That's my personal opinion. But how that's reacted to in those Avengers films will dictate a lot. But that's just my feeling on that. Kat, what about you as far as seeing Yusuf back again? And what do you think about Kevin's thoughts about a Young Avengers film or TV show?
Great seeing him. He, like you said, he steals his scenes. He's really funny. His character mannerisms. He's just a great actor, great character. I like him a lot. Liked him a lot in this episode. He was really fun. The way he played off of Daredevil, Charlie Cox. It was the interactions and back and forth banter was fun. I'd love to see a behind the scenes blooper reel with these two and what happened, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we're missing. That would have been hilarious. As for Young Avengers, I see them appearing in Doomsday or maybe even Secret Invasion. And then I don't think, depending on the I guarantee there's going to be a Young Avengers Disney Plus 8-part series, because they've mentioned too many of them already. You got to put it in somewhere. And I'm assuming if they put them in Doomsday, then there will be in after that. If they don't put them in Doomsday, I think they'll have their own little episode, and then they'll put him in Secret Invasion. Because
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars. Because Hulking is there, and if they use him, because he was a spoiler, he was a Skrull.
Who?
Hulkling.
A character from the comics that has not appeared yet.
Yeah, he hasn't appeared yet.
Okay.
He's ironically he's Wiccan's boyfriend.
Okay.
Spoiler for that too, if you didn't know Wiccan's character is gay.
Well, guys, when we get to episode 6, there is no way anybody predicted this one. I'm sorry, unless you had some advanced screeners or you had read the scripts. But we have the return of the swordsman, as Tony Dalton returned to playing Jack Duquesne. Of course, the last time we saw Jack, he was kind of the good, bad, kind of shades of gray character in Hawkeye. Of course, playing the swordsman, and of course, the swordsman in the comics was a hero, kind of thief turned hero, who was also famous for training Hawkeye and making Hawkeye the archer he is, and such. There, in this, the swordsman's kind of a bit of everything from what we saw in Hawkeye. Not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, just kind of doing his thing. But as episode 6 opens, we see him embracing a little bit more of his vigilante side with some footage of a swordsman taking out some criminals, and then having this confrontation with Fisk, to the point where I don't think we have seen the last of this character in this series. That was such a moment. And I love the fact that they were tying these Disney Plus shows into this Daredevil Born Again, because the characters they're choosing fit into this world. Having Kamala Khan's father with kind of his just grounded roots at the bank makes sense. Having Jack Duquesne show up at this event for the elite of New York, it makes sense. And they're doing it very intelligently. Kevin, what did you think about this appearance and cameo in this episode?
I think these cameos are very, very important to take the Netflix characters like Daredevil and everyone else to show that they are now part of the current MCU. And I like the fact that they haven't really retconned anything, if I'm remembering correctly, from any of those
they really haven't.
Right? Which was a great thing to do. And I'm glad they haven't, because that was the thing I was worried about with Daredevil Born Again. They were going to change a bunch of stuff. And I like that they haven't stepped on any of those things, so those could still exist. And they're slowly feeding Daredevil into the current MCU and the characters that we've learned from those TV shows and movies. Now, remind me real quick, Jack Duquesne, was that Haley Steinfeld's father?
Stepfather,
that's right. Okay.
He married Haley Steinfeld's character mother.
That's right. Okay, cool. So, and I liked him. I thought it was cool, but I'll be honest with you, I kind of forgot about him because I haven't rewatched that series in a while. Don't get me wrong, I love the Hawkeye series and I want to rewatch it. I ended up picking it up on 4K. But yeah, I'm glad that they're kind of tying this in, because this is a New York character. And so that'll be kind of cool to see. Remind me, did we see much of Jack Duquesne showcasing his swordsmanship in Hawkeye?
Yes, we did, especially in the later episodes.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, when there's a big fight with. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Kat, what about you? Were you surprised to see Jack Duquesne show up again? And do you think we're done seeing him in this show?
I didn't even realize who it was when I first saw him in the little clip they showed. Unfortunately, I was watching it on a smaller device, so I didn't really get a chance to see it. But when they mentioned Swordsman and then they showed him talking to Kingpin, I'm like, oh, cool, Swordsman's back. Are they going to show him again? 100%. He'll be in either this season or next season. And I really hope they go with the costume that you're showing on screen. I would love to see him in that costume.
God, no.
That's his classic.
No.
Hush you.
That's a cheesy comic book outfit. Please not.
That is a 1968 comic book
outfit.
Exactly. They need to put him in it.
No.
Just like they did when they did Wolverine.
Updated version. No.
What they should do is what they did recently, probably about 4 or 5 years ago now in the comics, when they brought this character back to life, and he ended up wearing the Ronin outfit for a while.
That was cool too.
Martin used to wear.
That looked better.
No, I want to see this one.
Yeah.
I want to see it hanging in his closet or something, or him wearing it. But I think they have to show it because it's just such a classic throwback to his origin.
I could see it hanging on the wall or something like that, or hanging in his closet. I'm fine with that, but I do not need to see him wearing that costume. So
I'll be fine with that as long as we see it.
Okay, guys, this is mainly for Kevin because he wasn't here last week, and I really want to get some of his thoughts on this. But topic 3, I want to talk about Muse because I brought this up in last week's episode. And Kevin, I got to give you a shout out too. You did a phenomenal job doing some research on Muse for last week's episode. I want to thank you for that.
For a show I couldn't be on, I had to help a brother out.
But one of the things I brought up, and Kat and I had a little bit of a discussion about it, and we'll get into a little bit more here, but we get even a better understanding of just how terrifying Muse is, how he makes his paint so it's near permanent, over 60 victims, and even taking children as victims. Is Muse the most terrifying villain we've had to date in the MCU? Not because of his power levels, but because of what he is.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the most powerful, obviously you got Thanos and all that kind of stuff, but he was able to kill people in a non-grotesque, creepy way, And we've seen a lot of villains die through impalement or weapons or explosions. But yeah, when you give him a serial killer angle, and I'm a fan of true crime and true crime podcasts, and I've listened to and watched a lot of our famous serial killers over the years and the shit that they've done. And California here has showcased many crazy efforts right now. I'll tell you that right now. And the way that they kill. And this guy, the killer becomes more interesting when they leave a trail or trophies, or they take trophies and they do the things that he's doing with using the human blood and draining them and then using it as art, makes it even creepier. And I think he looks great. I'm sure we're going to see some Dragon Con costumes, Kat, of the Muse, which I hope so. I hope we do. I'm very, very curious, but I haven't figured out, and I've just dove deep a little bit, but not far. Kyle and Kat, do we know who's playing the Muse? Because I don't. When I was trying to get information off IMDb,
they revealed that yet. I think there might be a surprise when we find out who's playing the Muse, but I don't think they revealed that yet.
Yeah, I know there's been speculation, but I love the fact that we don't know that yet, and they're keeping us talking.
And as for your answer about the Dragon Con, I expect at least 10% of the costumes to be Muse.
Yeah.
It's when we go out. If you go to Dragon Con, you go outside and you see somebody painting something on the wall.
Okay, look, I started the Matt, the radar tech guy group, and we did the Matt marches. Do we need to do a Muse march? Get a bunch of muses together?
Yeah, no, we don't need. We don't need that.
To see that.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. I do want to ask you, because we did talk about this a little bit last week, but now seeing this is really our first full look into Muse in this episode, and how he approaches things. We learn how many victims he's already had, how he creates the murals with the blood, and what he does, mix it with the chemicals and everything, so they're almost nearly impossible to get off the wall. Is Muse the most terrifying villain we've had in the MCU to date?
I think he's absolutely terrifying.
I guess, isn't the better question of who's close to him?
Huh?
Which villain in the MCU is anywhere near close to him as being the scariest and creepiest?
I have an answer for you, Kevin. Kilgrave.
Okay, there you go. Yep. Sorry to interrupt you, Kat. I apologize. Continue.
That was what we were talking about last week. Him and Kilgrave teaming up. That would be, yeah, no thanks.
Didn't Kilgrave die though?
Nope.
Am I wrong? Oh shit! I didn't.
And he's due to come back too. They've
really?
It. Yeah. Yep. He'll be back in. I'm not sure what they said. I think that I want to say it was another Jessica Jones series, but I don't want to say that.
Yeah, nothing's 100% confirmed on that yet. But
yeah, I would say he will be coming back.
Yeah, I would say
Kilgrave is just as creepy.
Yeah, I would say Kilgrave in his own right would have been the most terrifying, because especially of his mind control ability. But Muse is just on a totally different level of insanity, and that's what makes him scary.
But I love the how he sort of heard, like, I don't know if it would be heightened senses, because I don't recall him having heightened senses in one of his abilities. But when he was starting to drain the blood of the girl, he hears the noises out in the hallway, out in the subway, and he walks out and you see Daredevil coming down the hallway, down the alleyway in the subway, and then the big fight scene between them was just so good.
Yeah, it was very well done. But with that, guys, we're going to close out Phase 3 and get into Phase 4, our final thoughts and predictions of what might be coming next. Okay, guys, we have been talking Daredevil Born Again. 2 episodes again this week. Episode 5 with interest. Episode 6, excessive force. Let's get into our final thoughts on these episodes. Kat, I'm going to start with you. Give me your final thoughts on these episodes, and give me a prediction or two what we might see as we get down to the final 3 episodes of this season of Daredevil Born Again.
Episode 5, filler episode. Great episode. Fun to watch. Definitely kind of the kind of episode you can sort of like relax and sit back with a bag of popcorn and munch on it while you're watching it. Kind of like easy, like, this is a good episode. Yeah, definitely explain some stuff, helps formulate some things. Episode 6. Yeah, episode 6. Even better episode. And it's where you and I thought that we'd see some action, and we got some. We got some action in episode 5 as well, which was nice to see. Again, breaking that bad cop's knee. Ooh. Shivered up the spine. But episode 6 was just so much better. And again, what we talked about earlier, Daredevil coming, Daredevil again, Kingpin becoming his Kingpin persona for a little while again. Both great episodes. Love them. We'll definitely be rewatching both of them again on a bigger screen, mind you. As for my thoughts on the next episode, man, the way this episode 6 ended, I honestly, I don't really know. I mean, I see probably more of the Kingpin side of it. That episode, him using his force of trying to catch Muse or Daredevil or Punisher or anyone else for that matter that's wearing a mask. I see more of him and his not necessarily shady back dealings he's trying to do while being the mayor, but shady back dealings while being the mayor. So I think there'll be more of a Kingpin episode next week. My thoughts, with a little bit of action from Daredevil, probably again like at the end of the episode, or maybe a little bit in the middle somewhere, maybe finding one of those corrupt cops. But if we're lucky, we'll see Punisher show up, because we all thought he was going to be in these 2 episodes, and he wasn't. So maybe he'll be in the next one, whacking one of those fake Punisher guys or something, and Daredevil is trying to stop him from killing him. I'm at a loss. The way this episode ended, I'm like, next week? Don't know.
Kevin?
First of all, I'm glad these 2 episodes were together, and episode 6 was great. It set up a lot. I have questions on. I'm forgetting the character's name. White Tiger's niece. I need
Angela.
this. What's that?
Angela.
I need this plot thread character to pay off for me, because she did a really stupid thing. Didn't get the help that she was looking for, and went into the subways by herself with her cell phone light on to be a target. God, that was stupid. I need her. I need this character to find an arc in this series to where, if she's going to be the next White Tiger, if there is superpowers in that damn necklace, make it present itself and help the situation. I don't need a teenage girl being stupid and being captured again. Yeah, Kat.
There was we mentioned it last week. You weren't here. There was an edited scene that when she approached Matt the first time, the necklace was supposed to glow, recognizing that she is of the descent that she should be the next White Panther.
Do you think that diamond has anything to do with connecting
not.
to it at all? No?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Anyway,
she's supposed to become the next White Tiger by what they said, that they got rid of all that stuff because of this or that or whatever.
Okay.
So that was supposed to glow when she got close to him, so she will probably be becoming the next White Panther, which was the whole Kamala thing I mentioned about Kamala recruiting her.
Anyway, I need that story thread to pay off, because right now it's not working for me. But I have patience. I hope that we will get something more where there's a tie from the new task force, Wilson Fisk task force, and the Punisher wannabes, and maybe the Muse is the one that could be working with them, since obviously he's painting the Punisher skull logos around town and stuff like that. I really hope we get the Punisher back in the next episode, because I think something needs to fish him out, because obviously Daredevil and Wilson Fisk are being drawn back to their old ways. We need some Frank Castle being brought back in his own ways. I need more Frank Castle. Come on. And what's funny too is, like, my dad and I are really looking forward to The Accountant 2 with John Barenthal and Ben Affleck coming out. And I saw a little bit of Frank Castle in that character that he plays there as well. And I need to see more Barenthal as Frank Castle, because I love him to death. I think he's great.
As for me, I love these 2 episodes. I like the fact that I really enjoyed episode 5. It was so much fun. I like seeing that side of Matt Murdock too, not everything being so heavy, seeing kind of him having a little playful fun with it, because that is a side of Daredevil. Episode 6 was phenomenal. Let's start the setup for these final 3 episodes. It was amazing. As for what I think is coming ahead, I have a few predictions. I think we're going to see that task force hard at work. I don't think it's going to spell well for a certain swordsman with this task force. I think we're going to see him get taken down by this task force. I would suspect that episode 8 or 9 we'll see Daredevil score off with this task force. Maybe Muse is part of the fight, and that aspect of he's fighting Muse again and the task force gets involved. If it's episode 8 could end, or episode 9 could begin with Frank returning and starting to take out certain members of this task force. Or the final episode of the season will lead to Frank stepping in some way, somehow, and that might be the end of the season. I do not expect this season to end on a super high positive note because we have a season 2 coming. It's going to be a little bit of a cliffhanger. And I'm just going to say this. While nothing is official, there has been a lot of rumors that Kevin Feige, who loves John Bernthal as the Punisher, has been working on doing a Marvel Disney Plus special one-shot with Bernthal as the Punisher, which might be made to fill the gap between season 1 and season 2 of Daredevil, because we're not getting season 2 of Daredevil until 2026. So
are we looking at when you say a one-shot, do you mean a movie?
Well, now you're not like a full movie, but you remember the Werewolf by Night special?
Yeah, it was about an hour long, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Okay.
The Punisher, the Christmas episode, Christmas comic. Remember that one? That would be a good one shot.
No. But
it would be good.
Yeah, it would be good, but I not right now, especially depending on what direction they're going. But we're about to find out. We got 3 episodes left here on True Believers, and we're going to be covering them in every aspect we can. This show has been phenomenal. Every season of Daredevil, in my opinion, has been phenomenal. This is still one of the best things that Marvel Studios has done, in my opinion, and they continue to nail it. And we will have all the coverage here on True Believers. And of course, this is the Fandom Podcast Network, the home of True Believers, and so many other great shows here on the network, whether we're covering Star Trek and the Orville on Union Federation, maybe we're going back in time with Time Warp, covering one of your favorite movies on Couch Potato Theater, and so much more. That, of course, you can find the Fandom Podcast Network all over your interwebs, whether it's on Facebook at our homepage, Fandom Podcast Network, any of our group pages, including the True Believers group page on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at FanPod Network. You can find us on every podcast catcher that's out there. If you scan the QR code that's up on your screen, once again, it'll take you to our homepage at fbnet.podbean.com, where you can find all of our episodes of audio broadcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a like, a subscribe, and share it out. We appreciate your support with that. And of course, too, you can find us on Blue Sky at FanPod Network. You can find me, Kyle, on Facebook, Kyle Wagner. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at AKyleW. You can find me on Instagram at Threads and at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you when you're not out chasing serial killers in California?
You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix on X, Instagram, Threads, Letterbox, all the socials. For Blue Sky, I'm Spartan Phoenix. And of course, you can find me on Facebook as well, and here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And make sure too, you check out the True Believers Facebook group as well. We're talking all things Marvel.
Kat, when you're not breaking the fourth wall and eating chimichangas, where can people find you?
Chimichangas. I could go for one of those right now. Oh, I'm sorry. At Static Cat 1 on everything. So Blue Sky, Instagram, X, Facebook. That's the ones I think I want. So those 4.
There you go. Of course, too, there's a couple great ways to support the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, listening to our shows, but also check out our TeePublic store. We got the gear of the Fandom Podcast Network there. Gear from all your favorite shows, whether it's T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, backpacks, cell phone cases, pillows, tapestries, all kinds of fun stuff at our TeePublic store. Just go to teepublic.com and search for the Fandom Podcast Network, or type in the name of your favorite show on the Fandom Podcast Network. It's going to come up. You find the gear. I'm going to admit it. We get a little bit of a kickback. It helps us keep the Tesseract powered up so we can continue to do these great episodes. And we appreciate the support, and we appreciate seeing you in our gear as well. But guys, that is going to wrap up this episode of True Believers. Again, thanks to my legal counsel here as part of Wagner, Reitzel, and Kat. We strive to protect the little man out there, or we just strive to make a good podcast, one or the other. I haven't decided yet, but we are a lot of fun. We're excited for these last 3 episodes of Daredevil Born Again. It has been a blast so far, and we're not done yet, and I think a lot is going to happen. But with that, we're going to close out. We want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, we talked about Daredevil Born Again, episode 5 with interest, and episode 6, Excessive Force. Until next time, guys, Excelsior, and make ours Marvel.